The morning sunlight poured gently through my kitchen window, casting golden reflections on the floor as I zipped up my suitcase. The soft sound of birds chirping outside the Portland apartment was almost cinematic. I had planned this trip down to the hour. Passport ready, sun hats laid out, matching dresses for formal nights on the cruise carefully folded into packing cubes. It was supposed to be our first real family vacation in years, and after what I had sacrificed lately, I thought maybe, just maybe, I had finally earned a seat at the table. My phone buzzed on the counter. "Camille, it's Mom." Her voice was trembling, not the dramatic kind of tremble she sometimes used when guilt-tripping me over missed birthdays. No, this one was low, almost broken. "It's Grandma. She's in the hospital. It's bad. Honey, we need you here. She needs you." I froze, my hand still on the handle of the suitcase, halfway through pulling it upright. "What happened?" I asked, my voice tight, dread rising. "She collapsed this morning. Heart issues, they think. We didn't want to ruin your day, but Elise said we should tell you now before it's too late." I didn't even hesitate. I canceled the ride to the airport, threw on jeans, and loaded into my car, heart racing. I'd waited for this cruise for 6 months, took vacation days, saved for tickets, bought Elise that stupid sundress she had begged for. But if Grandma needed me, none of that mattered. I drove through the city like a ghost behind the wheel, mind running through every memory I had with her. Our Sunday teas, her lemon squares, the old blue photo album with the cracked leather binding. She had always been the only one who saw me, who really saw me. Then came the buzz again. A notification from Instagram lit up my screen at a stoplight. I didn't want to check it, but something made me swipe down. A photo. My breath caught. There they were, my entire family, standing on the deck of a cruise ship, champagne glasses in hand. Elise in that sundress, Dad in his sun hat, Mom in her coral resort wear. All smiles, all joy. The caption read, "Best family cruise ever. So blessed to be surrounded by love." I pulled over to the shoulder. I couldn't see the road through the tears suddenly clouding my eyes. My hands shook as I zoomed in. Uncle Nate, Aunt Sharon, even little cousin Zoe. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. My heart pounded like it wanted out of my chest. My mouth went dry. They had lied. Lied about Grandma. Lied to get me to stay behind. For the briefest moment, I held on to hope. Maybe it was an old photo, a memory. But it was posted 42 minutes ago. I dialed the hospital where Grandma was supposedly admitted. No record. No Camille Rhodes listed as emergency contact. No patient under Grandma's name. I called Mom. Voicemail. I called Dad. Voicemail. I texted Elise. The message bounced. She had blocked me. The realization hit me like a car crash. They had excluded me. Deliberately. They'd used Grandma as an excuse. They'd weaponized the only person I trusted. And they didn't even bother to cover their tracks. It wasn't just a lie. It was a betrayal years in the making. I gripped the steering wheel with white knuckles, trying to steady my breathing. I could feel the memories crashing over me. Birthdays skipped, school awards ignored, holidays where Elise always got the best seat, the best gifts, the most love. But this was different. This wasn't favoritism. This was exile. I turned the car toward Grandma's house instead of the hospital. If she was okay, if she hadn't even been part of this, maybe I wasn't completely alone in it. Maybe someone, somewhere in that bloodline, still had a soul. And yet, as I drove through the familiar streets, there was a chill in my chest I couldn't shake. The kind of chill that comes when you realize your entire foundation, your sense of belonging, was never real to begin with. The cruise hadn't even left port yet. But for me, the journey into betrayal had already begun. Grandma's house sat on the edge of a quiet neighborhood in southeast Portland, nestled between 2 maple trees that turned flame red every fall. I had parked in that driveway 100 times over the years, but that morning it felt foreign, like I didn't belong anymore. I knocked gently. The door creaked open a few seconds later, and there she was, Grandma June. Not in a hospital gown, not hooked to machines, not pale or breathless, but standing, fully dressed in her floral housecoat and slippers, holding a mug of chamomile tea. "Camille!" She blinked, surprised. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" I stared at her, my voice caught somewhere between disbelief and heartbreak. She looked so normal, so okay. I wanted to hug her and scream at the same time. She saw my face and set her mug down instantly. "Come in. Sit. Tell me what's happened." The scent of her lavender perfume wrapped around me as she pulled me into a hug. And just like that, I broke. I sobbed into her shoulder like I hadn't done since I was 12. And when we sat down on the worn sofa she'd had since before I was born, I told her everything. About the cruise, the call, the Instagram post, the empty hospital, Elise blocking me, my parents' silence. When I finished, she sat in stunned silence. Her hands trembled slightly around her teacup. Then her expression changed, sorrow faded, and something firmer took its place. Anger. Quiet, seething anger. "Your mother called me last week," she said slowly, her voice tight. "She asked me to pretend I was sick. Told me it was just a little white lie, just to help Elise relax during the trip. I said no. I thought she'd drop the whole idea, but I had no idea they'd actually go through with it. I wiped at my eyes. They used you. They knew I'd drop everything for you." She looked at me, her jaw tense. "Because you always do." That sentence settled between us like a verdict. I glanced around the living room. On the mantel were photos of Elise's graduation, Elise's wedding, Elise's Paris trip. None of me. I hadn't noticed before. Now I couldn't unsee it. "They never wanted me there," I whispered. "They didn't even bother with an excuse that made sense. They just assumed I'd stay behind like always. And I did." Grandma reached for my hand. Her grip was firm. "Camille, you've always been the responsible one, the helper. You took care of me. You worked 2 jobs through college. You visit every week. But they don't reward responsibility. They reward performance. Elise knows how to play them. You've been too good, too honest for your own good." I let out a bitter laugh. "And they're too selfish to see it." She looked down. "I gave them money for that cruise, Camille, $15,000. I told them it was to bring the family together." I froze. "Wait, you gave them money? For everyone to go?" She nodded, then paused, her mouth a tight line. "I didn't realize until now they never bought your ticket. I think they used your share to upgrade Elisa's suite. Maybe pay for those spa excursions." I saw Patricia showing off some luxury itinerary she didn't use to afford. The words sank into my stomach like stones. "You know what hurts the most," I said quietly. "They didn't even need an excuse. They could have just said, 'We don't want you there.' But instead they used you." Grandma didn't speak. She stood up and walked to a small cabinet by the hallway. From a drawer, she pulled out a thick, worn folder and placed it on the coffee table. "I didn't plan to show you this yet," she said softly, "but you deserve to know what I've been watching and documenting." Inside were pages, receipts, old emails, handwritten notes, and photocopies. Dozens of them. At first, I didn't understand, but then I saw the pattern. Each document outlined how my parents had favored Elise for years, financially, emotionally, even legally. College tuition payments, dance scholarships in Elisa's name using Grandma's address, summer programs, loans forgiven, surprise gifts. Meanwhile, I remembered being told, "We can't help you right now, money's tight." But money was never tight. They just chose where it went. I looked at Grandma. Her eyes were wet, but her voice didn't waver. "You're not imagining it, Camille. You never were." The folder sat heavy in my lap, as if it contained not just documents, but the weight of years I'd tried to explain away. Every time I had been called too sensitive or overreacting, or told, "Elise just needs more support right now." The truth was now staring at me in black and white ink. There were records of tuition checks sent directly to Elise's college, one of the most expensive private art schools in New York, while I remembered staying up till 2 a.m. every night working the late shift at a bookstore to cover my own community college fees. There was a receipt for a custom wedding dress, $8,000, labeled "gift from family." There were even wire transfers into her joint account with her husband, labeled "for home purchase support." And beneath it all, my name. On nothing. "You kept all of this?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. Grandma nodded. "I wasn't sure at first, but over the years I saw the pattern. I kept hoping it would even out, that your parents would come around. But this cruise, this was different. This was intentional exclusion." I leaned back, eyes still scanning a typed email from my mother to Elise. "Camille will believe anything if we say it's for Grandma. Just don't post too early." Something in me broke, and something else hardened. I opened my phone and clicked on Elise's post. Her smiling face, their champagne glasses, the ocean glinting behind them. My fingers hovered above the screen, then typed. Funny how being lied to about my grandmother being hospitalized just so my family could exclude me from a vacation somehow makes me the problem. Attached was a screenshot of the cruise photo with the timestamp. Even funnier how the cruise was paid for with money that was supposed to include me. I hit post. It was immediate. The comments rolled in. Old friends, extended cousins, former teachers. Wait, what? Camille, I always suspected something was off. You were always the one holding everyone together. My inbox exploded with private messages. Cousins shared their own stories. How Elise never showed up unless there were gifts. How I was always the one bringing pies to Thanksgiving, watching the little ones, cleaning up after everyone. One even wrote, "You're the glue. They used you because they could." Then the call came. "Dad." I stared at the screen, then answered. "Take that post down. Now." His voice was low, controlled, that terrifying calm before the storm. "No," I said, standing up as if he could see me. "You lied. You used Grandma as bait. And now everyone knows." There was a pause. Then, "You're embarrassing this family." I almost laughed. "No, Dad. You embarrassed this family when you excluded your daughter and used her inheritance to pamper the one you actually care about." The silence was thick. Then he said it, cold, measured, a threat wrapped in concern. "You don't know what you're playing with, Camille. You have no idea what we've protected you from. We've kept things from you, yes, but for a reason. If you keep going down this road, you'll regret it. You're not the only one who can tell stories." My throat clenched. What was he talking about? What could they possibly be hiding that would make them this afraid? I didn't answer. I just hung up. And then my phone rang again. "Grandma." "Did he call?" she asked. "He said they were protecting me," I replied. "From what?" She went quiet, then said the 5 words that changed everything. "Go to your email, Camille." I opened my laptop, fingers numb. In my inbox was a message from her personal email. No subject. One attachment. A scanned trust document. I read the first line, then again. My pulse pounded. It was a legal trust agreement, dated 25 years ago, created by my maternal grandfather, Wallace Bell, long before I was old enough to even understand money. The contents made my vision blur. It stated that all grandchildren were to receive an equal portion of a $2.1 million trust, payable upon their 30th birthdays. My 30th birthday was 4 months away, and then the second attachment, bank statements, dozens, year after year. Every withdrawal was in my mother's name, sometimes co-signed by her brother, my uncle, Thomas Bell, the trustee. Not just Elise's tuition, not just her wedding, but spa trips, renovations, Elise's honeymoon in Santorini, all paid from my portion. I closed the laptop slowly. They hadn't just lied to me. They had been stealing from me since I was 3 years old. The folder on my lap felt heavier than paper. It felt like proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That all those years I had questioned myself, wondering if maybe I was just too sensitive, too bitter, too dramatic, were years I should have trusted my gut. The truth was never in my head. It had been buried under spreadsheets and signed checks all along. Grandma sat quietly beside me as I flipped through page after page. Each document was like a wound being reopened. A tuition check for Elise's private college, $72,000. A receipt for a custom wedding dress, $8,400. Notes from my mother asking Uncle Thomas to process another withdrawal from Camille's side. No shame, no pretense. All the while I had worked 2 jobs and lived on boxed pasta. I didn't even realize I was crying until Grandma reached for my hand. Her fingers were warm and steady, but her eyes were cold steel. "They didn't just take money," I whispered. "They took my dignity." I stood up and walked to the window. The backyard was quiet, sunlight spilling across the grass. I should have felt peace, but inside I was shaking, not from fear, but from something else. Something sharper. Rage. I picked up my phone, opened Elise's cruise post, stared at her smiling face in that sundress I had helped her pick out. I typed, "Funny how being lied to about my grandmother being hospitalized just so my family could exclude me from a vacation somehow makes me the problem. Even funnier how the cruise was paid for with money meant to include me." I posted it. No filter. No looking back. The response was immediate. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Old high school friends, extended family, coworkers. Comments poured in. "This is awful. I always thought something was off. You were the one who held that family together. Camille, you deserved better." Then my screen lit up again. "Dad," I answered. His voice was cold, clipped, the same tone he used in boardrooms. "Take it down." "No, you're embarrassing this family. You did that when you lied about Grandma being sick. When you spent my inheritance on Elise's honeymoon." Silence. Then came the threat, thinly veiled in fatherly concern. "You don't know everything, Camille. We've kept things from you. Protected you. You start this war, you won't like how it ends." I closed my eyes. My grip on the phone tightened. "Are you threatening me?" His voice dropped. "I'm warning you. You're not the only one who can tell stories." He hung up. The quiet that followed was deafening. I stood still, the air around me frozen. Then my phone buzzed again. "Uncle Thomas." I answered without hesitation. His voice was strained, almost panicked. "Camille, I've gone through the trust logs. Your parents, they've been moving money. Offshore accounts. Under Elise's name." My stomach dropped. "They're planning to run." He confirmed what I already feared. The cruise was a test run. They had used it to see if their passports would trigger any flags. They were liquidating fast. Then came another ping. A message from Elise. "I know what you're doing. You've always been jealous of me, trying to ruin everything like always. But you're too late. By the time you figure it out, we'll be gone, and you'll have nothing." I stared at the screen. Not a single word of regret. No apology. Just arrogance and poison. I forwarded it to Uncle Thomas. He called again. "That's it. We need to move. I've contacted the family attorney. But your grandmother, Camille, she did something." I turned to Grandma. She was already holding her phone. "They're at the company right now," she said calmly. "Your father is cleaning out his office. Security just called me." "Can they stop him?" I asked, already halfway to the door. "Better," she said. "I've contacted the FBI. Financial Crimes Division. They're on their way." I stopped cold. "You what?" She looked up, her expression steady. "I filed the paperwork this morning. Transferred my controlling shares of the company to you. Camille, you're the majority shareholder now." The words barely registered. "They don't know yet?" "No," she said softly. "And that's our advantage." I grabbed my bag, my keys, my folder of evidence, and ran. As I pulled out of the driveway, another message came in. This time for Mom. You ungrateful child. After all we've done for you, you'll regret this. I read it once, then deleted it, because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the one who had something to lose. This time it was them, and they had no idea what was coming. Downtown Portland was unusually quiet that morning, as if the city itself sensed what was coming. The air felt heavy, like the silence before a storm. I pulled into the underground garage of Rhodes Development Corporation, my family's company, gripping the steering wheel like it might steady the war that had begun to rage inside me. I was no longer the forgotten daughter, the helper in the shadows. Not today. Today, I was the majority shareholder, and they didn't know that yet. I stepped into the lobby just as the elevator doors ahead opened. My father emerged, carrying a banker's box stuffed with folders, framed photos, and a sleek black nameplate that read Gregory Rhodes, CO. My mother followed behind, sunglasses covering half her face, even though we were indoors. Elise trailed them both, looking over her shoulder as if checking for ghosts. They all froze when they saw me. My father's eyes narrowed. My mother went pale. Elise's mouth fell slightly open. What are you doing here? My father demanded, trying to reassert that old authority that once kept me quiet. You're not supposed to be here. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I took out my phone and pulled up the ownership transfer document, signed, notarized, timestamped. I held it up, the screen facing them. As of 9:01 a.m. this morning, I said calmly, I am the controlling shareholder of Rhodes Corporation, and as the new majority owner, I have some very serious questions about what's in those boxes. My father took a half step back. My mother reached out, as if to stop him. Elise whispered something, but her voice cracked and vanished. Camille, my mother started, her tone suddenly soft, rehearsed. Let's talk about this somewhere private. We don't need to, but it was too late. Outside, tires screeched. A black SUV pulled into the front circle drive. Then another, and another. FBI agents stepped out, flashing badges. Security guards from the building followed behind, looking uncertain but alert. One of them nodded to me. He had spoken to Grandma earlier. He knew who was in charge now. The lead agent approached. Camille Rhodes. Yes. You filed a complaint regarding corporate fraud, misappropriation of trust assets, and wire transfers to overseas accounts. Correct. And these are the individuals in question. I gestured toward my parents and Elise. My father turned red. This is ridiculous. These are family matters. You can't, the agent cut him off. Sir, we have warrants for the company's financial records and your personal devices. You are not to leave the premises. My mother's voice broke. Everything we did was for this family. For your sister. You don't understand, Camille. I turned to her slowly. No, I said, my voice steady measured. Everything you did was for Elise. Not for me. Not for Grandma. And certainly not for the legacy Grandpa left us. I walked closer to the box my father was holding. A corner of a checkbook stuck out, one of the old company accounts. I pointed. I suggest you put that down. It may be considered evidence now. Behind me, I heard more agents enter the building, heading upstairs. One asked Elise to step aside so they could access her office. She flinched, then nodded, cheeks wet with sudden tears. Did you enjoy the cruise? I asked her quietly. Was it worth it? She didn't answer. My father glared at me. His face was full of rage he couldn't voice. Maybe because deep down he knew it was over, and that I was no longer the girl he could manipulate with guilt, that I had power now. 3 hours later, I sat in the company's executive conference room. Uncle Thomas was there, his hands trembling slightly as he passed a folder to the company attorney. Grandma sat beside me, calm as stone. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. The facts were speaking for her now. The FBI found everything: diverted trust funds, unauthorized wire transfers, encrypted offshore accounts in Elise's name. Every lie they'd told, every theft, every betrayal. It was all unraveling. They thought they had erased me from the picture. They had no idea I was the one holding the negative. 3 months later, the trees in Grandma's backyard had turned from green to deep gold. The air was cooler now, the kind that made you reach for a sweater and hold your coffee just a little tighter. We sat together most mornings watching the leaves fall and pretending, for a few moments, that life had always been this peaceful. But peace wasn't something you inherit. It's something you earn after the storm passes. The FBI investigation moved quickly, faster than I had imagined for something this complex. Uncle Thomas handed over everything he had: copies of trust withdrawals, emails, text messages, internal memos between my father and mother outlining how they planned to manage Camille's portion while maintaining Elise's advantage. They hadn't even tried to hide it. It turned out they had not only stolen from my trust fund, but also misappropriated company funds. The auditors found over $1.3 million in fraudulent expenses billed to Rhodes Corporation: renovations for Elise's condo, first-class vacations, jewelry, even private tutoring for her future children. Children she didn't even have yet. When confronted, my father tried to blame it all on me. She's bitter. She's unstable. She's fabricating these stories to punish us. But the documents told the truth he couldn't rewrite. He was indicted on multiple counts of wire fraud, tax evasion, and breach of fiduciary duty. My mother faced accessory charges for helping transfer funds into disguised accounts. Her lawyer tried to argue she was merely acting out of love. The judge disagreed. Elise, to everyone's surprise, made a deal. She offered full cooperation with the investigation, turned over her devices, and even recorded phone calls with my mother confirming the money was stolen. In exchange, she was granted immunity. She moved to Minnesota to start over, alone. Before she left, she sent me a long email, a full-page apology. I was the favorite and I knew it, but I didn't know how much it cost you. I read it once, then archived it. Some things need more than words. Some wounds don't close with an email. I took over the company officially in early October, not as a CEO, but as the woman who had once been erased from every meeting, every legacy photo, every vacation plan, and now held the majority vote on every decision that mattered. My first act wasn't to fire people or make speeches. It was quiet. I created a scholarship program for the children of Rhodes Corporation employees, named after my grandfather, the man who had once believed in fairness, even if his wishes had been twisted. Then I commissioned a full audit and set new rules: full transparency, equal pay evaluations, mandatory ethics training for senior staff. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted no one in that building to ever feel like I once had, invisible. Grandma watched all of it unfold without once saying, "I told you so." She didn't need to. Her quiet strength had been the compass that guided me through the worst of it. When I offered to move her into a better home, she declined. "This house," she said, patting the old wooden armrest of her rocking chair, "is where I raised 2 generations. I'll stay until I'm called elsewhere." She had always been the anchor, and now, for the first time, I felt like I was becoming one too. One morning, as we sat watching the trees shed what they no longer needed, she turned to me and said, "Your grandfather would be proud. He always said money reveals who people really are, and in the end you stood tall." I nodded, quiet for a long while. Then I said, "I never wanted the money, or the company, or the power. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered." She smiled gently. "And now you are, by the only person who ever needed to see it." I looked at her, confused. "Who?" She reached out and tapped my chest. "You. That cruise they took without me? It wasn't the vacation of a lifetime. It was the beginning of the end for them, and the beginning of everything for me." I still have the suitcase I packed for that cruise. It's up in the closet now, untouched. I never unpacked it, not really. It serves as a reminder that sometimes the trip you thought you were taking is not the one life had planned for you. I never got the vacation I dreamed of, but I got something far better. Peace. Not the kind that comes with silence, but the kind that comes with truth, with standing up for yourself, with drawing a line in the sand and saying, no more. My parents were sentenced last month. My father took a plea deal, 10 years in federal prison, with no chance of running another company for the rest of his life. My mother received 6 years, suspended only after she paid restitution and gave up all her claims to the family estate. They were no longer the couple that ruled every room. They were two people who lost everything because they thought I had nothing. Elise now works at a nonprofit in Minneapolis. I hear she lives in a one-bedroom apartment and takes the bus to work. I don't take joy in that. Not really. But I do take comfort in knowing she now lives in a world where merit matters more than favoritism, where you can't steal someone's place at the table and expect applause. I get asked sometimes by old friends, distant relatives, if I regret going public, if I ever wished I had stayed quiet, avoided the confrontation, kept the peace. But peace built on silence isn't peace at all. It's control, and I've lived under control long enough. I never got to sit on that cruise ship deck, drink champagne, laugh with people who loved me. But now, most mornings, I sit on Grandma's porch with a warm mug in hand, and I don't feel alone anymore. I feel seen. That little girl who used to wonder why her sister always got more finally got her answer. And it wasn't because she was unworthy. It was because the people around her never knew how to value what didn't shine for show. Now I shine anyway, on my own terms. If you're listening to this, and you've ever been the forgotten one, the strong one, the one who was told to keep giving because that's just who you are, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not hard to love. You are not selfish for protecting your heart. And you are not wrong for walking away from the people who taught you to disappear. Sometimes the most radical act of revenge is not becoming like the people who broke you. It's becoming more.